All right, team. Up next on the Second Chance podcast, we're going to hear from Roman Fischer. Fischer is spelled Fischer. So if you look up Roman Fischer on the web, make sure that we use the proper spelling. But he is a fitness coach. Amazing story, has his own journey, and like many fitness professionals do, he has just a great story of why and what led him into being a fitness coach. Great conversation. We go down the what we're eating today as of October 2024 of the things that we're eating, and just the emphasis or the lack thereof of emphasis that we find sometimes in healthy food and just working out in general. So let me know what you think. Be sure, like, share, comment. If you've got a friend, one thing I'll tell you about this episode, if you've got a friend who's struggling to get started in a fitness routine, this is the one for them. Let me know what you think. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think of the episode. Have a good one. All right, team, here we go. Welcome back to the Second Chance podcast with Jeff Robertson. Today, we are joined by Roman Fischer, a transformational health coach who turned his life around after witnessing his brother's physical transformation and facing personal health scare within his family. Roman's journey is a testament to the power of change, driven by the tragic loss of his grandfather to cancer linked to poor dietary habits. This profound experience propelled Roman to overhaul his lifestyle and dedicate himself to helping others achieve their health and fitness goals. From battling sugar addiction and overcoming depression to inspiring over 50 people to transfer their own lives, Roman's story is one of resilience and dedication. He firmly believes that it's never too late to start making health a priority, and is here to share how it helps others realize their physical and mental potential. So let's get started. Let's get in. I'm excited to learn more about Roman's journey, the impactful work he's doing today. So welcome, Roman.
Yes, thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Love even I was reading the intro, and I work in health and fitness, and it gives me even a little bit of a cold chill, being excited to learn more about you, but also some of those negative things you've experienced, and hopefully our listeners. And we're going to speak to people today that is exactly where you were, I were, your grandfather was, a lot of people that have influenced us, and hopefully they will take action. So I think if we can agree at the end of this episode, if whoever hears this, if you're in a bad place, make sure that you get go back to this episode, load up, because Roman's gonna walk us through several things here. Can you take us back to kick us off here? Can you take us back to the moment when you decided to take your health serious? What was the catalyst for that decision?
For sure, for sure. So I'll just begin with this. I wasn't always, health conscious by any means. I was not always really careful with what I would eat, what I would drink, just my overall physical activity and my overall health. I will say though, back then, just really going back into my life and into my past, what actually drove me and brought me into the fitness arena and my fitness lifestyle ever since. There were a few different factors, honestly, but one of which, and the very, very first thing, was seeing my younger brother, pick up the weights, start working out, and seeing him just take that, step into fitness himself. And he got inspired, funny enough, through the Rocky movies that were super popular, of course, in the 80s especially, but it's a huge staple for a lot of people that are trying to get that motivation, that drive, that fire to get into fitness or just some kind of athletic, activity. And so seeing my brother step into that and pick up the weights for himself, my younger brother, and I was not really a weightlifter by any means, but seeing him do that really gave me that encouragement, because obviously it wasn't overnight, the results that he was getting, but he did. And I will say this for sure, he did get the endorphins from the workouts. And those are just some of the best things anybody can get. And so him getting those positive benefits already with his energy, because if there's anything that was overnight, when it comes to his results. It was his energy shift. And he went from not having nearly as much to having a lot more, feeling a lot more confident and just more energetic, more focused, more positive as a whole. So those things, honestly, I seeing that, witnessing that, that really, really rubbed off on me and really inspired me and encouraged me to start weightlifting myself and even just doing a little bit of weights. Nothing too crazy, maybe starting out, but just lifting some, just seeing how it feels, seeing how it would, change me and change my life and my health. And so I started doing that, especially when I started seeing him gain more strength, gain more muscle. And that 100% was a catalyst and what got me into fitness. And really, ever since, I've been addicted. It's one of those healthy addictions that I love to say. It's a healthy addiction because addiction's such a negative word, in our society, in our world, in a lot of people's lives too. But this is no doubt and has been for the longest time, 11 years about now, but it's been a healthy addiction ever since. When I was about 15, almost 16, seeing my brother finally, make that step, make that change and start lifting the weights himself. And ever since I started doing that shortly after that. And man, it's been an amazing journey ever since. And then
What?
from there, of course, I wasn't 100%, with my diet, my nutrition. That wasn't all clean or clear by any means. I would actually be one of those athletes, one of those lifters that would, lift the weights, do the workouts, get that part right. But then after that, beyond that, I wouldn't get anything else much right. Or I might halfway get my nutrition okay, the right way, the proper way. But then from there, I would literally cheat and eat almost anything still in front of me. And that was rough. And growing up here in the South, it's a staple that not everyone's always eating the healthiest anyway. Anyhow, but even with all those, factors with my environment and my lack of consistency, and I would even say lack of, motivation and all the cravings that I was having with my food, with my nutrition, with all that being the case, I still managed to overcome that ultimately. And I will say the factors and how that, occurred and how that actually led me to get through that was really analyzing, researching, doing my due diligence on what is in our foods, what's in our foods, what is in our drinks, what are we consuming on a day-to-day basis? Because what we're eating and what we're drinking, of course, some people could be eating healthy, drinking healthy, living a clean lifestyle, but I wasn't one of those people. And so when I started really analyzing what we're putting in our body, me specifically, I was taken aback. I'll say that much for sure. And that's an understatement because when I started seeing what is in my food, what was in my food, what was in my, drinks, all that, I couldn't pronounce the half of it. I could not pronounce most of what I was eating for the ingredients. Not even to mention, there's 50 plus ingredients, sometimes just in a loaf of bread or some kind of drink I would get at the store. And I was like, this is not can't be good for me. If I can't pronounce it, if I can't pronounce this ingredient, not even to mention the rest of them, probably shouldn't be putting it in my body. So after much research on that, that led me to make more of a change. It did lead me to be more consistent and motivated to start cleaning up my diet for sure. And then of course there were, events in my family, very tragic events, like you mentioned earlier, but my grandpa, someone I was very close to, someone I really, really was close to in family, and seeing him, growing up with him, having that connection, that bond, growing up as a kid, and him being my grandpa, him ultimately, and tragically enough, and very suddenly, passing away. That was really that was rough, and it would be for most people. It was a very much an emotional, mental, obstacle. And definitely it was a weight. It was a weight on me. Not a good weight in this case, but literally it was one of those things that it was hard to get through and honestly deal with and honestly cope with for that time. And as it really would be for basically anyone in that, circumstance, in that situation. But I will say, while it did really give me a lot of pain, and then of course being at his funeral definitely brought me to tears. I'll be honest, really brought me that low, brought me so emotionally, down to where I literally was brought to tears. Just witnessing that, being in that, and it just didn't seem real. I mean, of course, people come and go; it's part of life. But when it's your family, your close family members, specifically, it's on a whole nother level at that point. So it almost feels as if it's not real, especially when you've grown up with them for so many years, for so long. So yeah, that really was a really, really rough spot, really rough time in my life. And I will say, for at least a good solid couple of weeks to maybe even a month, I was really emotionally, hurt, very much emotionally hurt, drained, and honestly, just grieving quite a bit. But I will say though, as crazy and as bad as that was, and very, very, tragic, it did ultimately do something. And I will say it did do something good at the end of the day, at the end of it all. Because that pain that I was feeling, that emotional hurt, pain, agony that I was having, it actually brought me to use it for fuel and fire, to fuel myself, to fuel my inner self, my goals, my health goals, and just to clean up what I was doing, what I was eating. Because one of the driving factors and forces of him getting cancer to begin with was just not being disciplined with his nutrition. He was a heavy sugar addict. And that was, in fact, one of the, main reasons why he developed cancer and sadly ultimately passed. But I realized, and it kind of scared me finding that out, because I was myself very much a heavy sugar addict as well. So when I realized that, the fact that I had that specific thing in common with him, obviously I wouldn't die overnight. It would take several years for that to compound, but still, it did, do something to me mentally inside, where it pushed me to use that pain for fuel. And it really did. It motivated me. It's one of those things where sometimes, and I'm not saying it's a great thing to have to deal with or go through to get to the other side, so to speak. But when you have tragedies like this, and it honestly motivates you to not go down that same route and that same path as them, and it actually pushes you to transform your body, your mind, and just your health, sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes that's what it takes to fully make that total full on 180. Because I'll be honest, even after I, got into weights, even after I started analyzing more of what I was eating, what I was having in, putting in my body, and really looking at those ingredients, that did motivate me. But I will say it didn't fully motivate me like what happened with my grandpa. And when I realized that happened, he had that sugar addiction that was super, super heavy and super paramount for him. I realized I shared that with him as well, and I don't want to keep going down the same route. I want to live long. I want to leave a legacy behind, not just for myself, but of course everyone I knew, everyone I loved, family, friends, future family, and just everyone else beyond that. And maybe people I didn't quite know, just so I could be that legacy, that guide, that help for other people. So that actually led me into cleaning up my nutrition as a whole. And even that, it did take time, because I was super addicted to the unhealthy lifestyle I had with what I was eating. And it took time for my brain to fully reset from that and start craving the healthier foods. But I realized I have to just take this in gradual steps. But knowing what I know now, there's no way I am going to keep living the same way I've been. And I realized I got to make this a non-negotiable for myself, my health, because my health is, cliche or not sounding, it's wealth. And I have to make sure that I prioritize that, I protect that, and I really, really focus and hone in on that. And when I can do that, then I can be the healthier version of myself that I've always wanted to be. And then from there, I can make my grandpa proud. I can make everyone else proud around me, and I can make myself proud and show up better for myself and other people beyond that. And then from there, after gradually phasing better foods, better, meal options, and just healthier, clean eating, I felt better. I felt better and honestly had a lot more focus and energy. And I felt better ever since. But that honestly, all together in a nutshell, is what really got me into fitness, from working out to just better, overall cleaner, healthy nutrition.
I have I got a couple things I was going to ask you. First is your area that you grew up in, was it influenced by fitness or was it not? And I'll tell you why I asked. Um, I grew up in a rural area and we didn't have, like, we had PE school, but it wasn't, hard work and farm, this and that. There wasn't any emphasis on physical fitness, so to say, because every work. How about yourself?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That was similar, honestly, to my situation. I actually grew up in a fairly rural area as well, where I grew up most of my life, actually here, being around Arkansas. So there was obviously, just like with your situation, there was PE, physical education. So that was good, to an extent. They did prioritize health some, but I'll be honest, and they did have a couple health classes. So they did have some, importance, emphasis on it growing up in school, when I did go, but they didn't focus on it nearly as much as they could have, and I would say should have, especially in certain areas of people's health specifically. And
We
they didn't
started,
focus too much
remember,
on it.
we started this thing where we had health and PE, but we decided, like, for somewhere along the lines, we started changing what was health.
Yeah, it's
Right? It seems like
crazy.
we called it health, but when you, like, the stuff you're speaking to now with food additives and some of the other stuff is, and when you look at healthy school lunches, you can pizza and peanut butter jellies on a healthy food, a well balanced diet. So I think somewhere along the lines we got away from what's healthy.
Yeah,
Um,
no doubt, no doubt. It's
yeah,
crazy. We don't really, and they didn't touch too much on the importance of protein, complete proteins. And honestly, they didn't touch too much on added sugar all that much, surprisingly. And that's one of the foundations of being healthier, is limiting sugar in general, especially the added sugar, namely. But even natural sugars, they're better than added sugars, but to an extent, you even got to limit that. Like, you can't have too much fruit. A few cups is fine, maybe in a day, but beyond that, you want to stick to more, whole grains, vegetables. And they didn't even really prioritize, organic, type of, way of eating. They didn't really touch on pesticides too much either. And that can also, yes, food can be food to an extent, but let's not forget that there's different qualities of food as well. And when you have pesticides in your food, it's different from having pesticide-free food and more just overall natural, clean food.
I had
So no doubt about that.
Roman, I had a buddy tell me one time. I say he was a vegetable gardener. He used pesticides in his garden. And one day I said, "Is it organic?" He goes, "To tell you the truth, I can't taste the difference." Like, all the
That's
insulin
crazy.
works.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to tell you, and is for the audience, is the same type scientist that we associate with cigarette smoking and the addictive properties of cigarettes. Those folks are now in our food industry. It's just my understanding. That's what some folks have told me. I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, but through fitness and working through my gym franchise I learned about this. And when you take that bite of the chip, the whole goal is for you to say, "I want another." And so it creates that interaction with your dopamine receptors where it creates a craving. You want more. So with that said, not everyone has a strong mind to be able to sit. They're going to have that one drink or that one smoke, whatever. So that addictive property spills into our food, and next thing you know, we're over consuming.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's crazy. They do that, and I hate to say it, but it's definitely profit over people, profit over health, profit over nutrition, profit over, overall health for the people. And they're looking at the profit of their business, which to an extent, I understand if you're trying to make money, but it shouldn't be at the expense of anyone's health by any means whatsoever. And that's where it becomes a huge, huge issue and a huge problem, without a doubt. And yes, you're so right. I do believe that what you said is 100% true because, yeah, there was a lot of different people from the tobacco industry that found their way in our food industry. And with all the foods that they get at the store, a lot of it is backed by them. And honestly, it is very much, influenced by them. And a lot of those ingredients are made for you to want more. So that way you buy more, so they make more money, not even caring about, obviously, the consumer's health, which is the sad thing. That is the sad thing about it. So really, it's honestly like a drug. The wrong foods can be a drug in itself. Whether it's just a lot of candies that people are addicted to, like I used to be, or maybe certain potato chips that have certain ingredients that keep you wanting more. So really, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to your health. And honestly, to avoid any and all addictions, any and all, what I like to say, are certain drugs that are in our stores. It's
What
crazy.
what specific when we talk about the sugar addiction there, right? What specific strategies did you find most effective in breaking such a deep-seated habit?
Oh yeah. I'll say yeah, for sure, because that is that is one of the toughest habits and addictions to break, especially when it's, sugar, added sugar. And I found, and I've heard even, and there's been research done and shown that added sugar can actually be more addictive than, honestly, some of the hard drugs out there for certain people. So that's how crazy this added sugar can be. And what's even crazier is it's legal in our stores or grocery stores. But what I did personally to, break away from that, I will say this: I treated it like it was a drug or like it was, a cigarette. So essentially, when people are addicted to cigarettes, they try to go cold turkey. Never really works. So I thought about that. I'm like, okay, so I'm addicted to this. Yeah, honestly, it feels like I'm on a drug. That's literally what I was thinking and saying to myself back in the day when I had this problem, just this addiction. And so I realized I got to get off this. I can't just stay on all the sugar. If I'm going to have some added sugar, in moderation, maybe a little bit's fine. But for the most part, I got to cut this out as much as possible, if not entirely. So the best way to do that, I thought, is probably not cutting it all out. Because I think there was one day in my past where I did that and it didn't work. I was back to eating sweets by the end of the day. I could not overcome that right away. So then I realized the best the best strategy is to gradually cut off of it, wean myself off of it. And how I did that was, for example, a really good example here, instead of eating, because it was crazy. I used to eat a whole bag of Twizzlers. It was that bad. It was that bad. So I went from that to going from that to maybe half a bag to, honestly, maybe a quarter of the bag, maybe having 10, 15, 20 Twizzlers, and gradually just tapering off. Every few days to every week, I would just reduce the amount that I would have. And then after doing that, I would start to ultimately replace that with natural sugars, natural types of food that mimicked that exact taste that I was already craving. And so doing that, when I weaned myself off of it, it didn't make the change drastic because I wasn't just going cold turkey, having it completely and then cutting off completely. So it made it easier for my brain to accept that and to be okay with the transition. Then when I also did that in combination and added on with healthier, cleaner, natural sugars such as fructose instead of sucrose, and I found, natural sugars that mimicked that. So maybe some regular cherries, some strawberries. So instead of the strawberry Twizzlers or cherry Twizzlers, for example, I would literally just have regular strawberries, regular cherries to replace that amount that I was having previously. And obviously, you can have too much natural sugar, too many fruits too, but still, even though I had a bit more fruits than most people deem as good, I was still making a healthier transition at that time instead of just eating a lot of Twizzlers, a lot of candies. So replacing it in general, just replacing all added sugars with natural sugars, and then even finding other ways to do it. other than just solely fruits, I also found that having lemon juice added to maybe a yogurt, because yogurt can have a lot of sugar if you're not finding the right kind. So adding lemon juice, adding vanilla extract, things like that can also, to like some plain yogurt, that can actually add in a lot of flavor, a lot of taste without the expense of your health. And honestly, without overdoing it and having all this added sugar that's poured into, the yogurt that you can find and get at the store as well. So that was a huge transition too, that honestly helped me quite a bit into more of a seamless, effortless transition, if you will. I won't say it's totally effortless, but when you do that, it actually seems more effortless. And I felt a lot easier in my doing of doing that. And then I also felt that I wasn't going to come back to the, candies that I was so addicted to and all the sugars that I was so, heavily invested in before. I felt like I could finally start gradually tapering off and tapering off of that for good. And then I started to really crave the healthier foods I found. And it's been crazy ever since. I'll admit, ever since then to this very day, I rarely ever have a cheat meal. I don't even have to have one technically. Partially, I have strong willpower, so that does help, especially now that I've developed that. So that's been really, really amazing. But beyond that as well, I will say, just when you eat better, when you eat cleaner, you not only develop better willpower, but you start craving those healthier foods. And it's really interesting how our brain operates, how our brain functions and works. But when you eat cleaner, your brain will then start to begin to crave those cleaner foods like fruits, even vegetables. Crazy enough for some people to think that, but your brain will crave those things. And chicken and rice, healthy, dinners like that, or even honestly, other types of food like steak, sweet potatoes. There's different ways you can eat healthy, but just making sure you do it in moderation with sodium, keeping your sugars lower. But that was a great way I found to ultimately taper off and taper off for good.
We teach, we probably became more calorie focused at Fit Body Boot Camp as a franchise. We really got into helping people create a new lifestyle and not cheat meal, treat meal. We quit talking about it and we just started saying we came up with a really cool meal, had calories and the kind of your breakdown of your macros in each one of the categories. So we had eat more, eat some, eat less list. That's the one that I found most people had the most success on. But the one that I see folks that started with me a couple of years ago are starting to see the results of that couple of years because we have people that have learned for 30 to 40 years of a certain lifestyle and all these things. And then when you come in and you go, oh, yeah, there's not a lot of core value greens. You can eat as many of those you want to. We really focus on protein, carbs, and fats. Eat your protein first and work through. And it's mind because we're
It
not,
is.
yeah, you're not. And so we try to teach that. And listen, if you want to, if you don't reward, don't look at it like that. If you want to go eat some twist, go eat some twist. Don't not do it because it makes you shell. But what people learn is, I'm a success story myself, just like you. I ain't having this conversation because I've been a fitness professional my whole life. I'm having this conversation because I got a lot of stuff wrong. Uh, it, I we used to do pizza on Friday. Eat good, eat healthy, all this stuff. We got pizza on Friday, and there was a point in time when I was like, I really don't want to do this pizza. And you just move into and you start seeing like what's worth, what's not. I'd rather have this, and then once you learn to eat your protein goal each day, it really accelerates you as well. We don't talk enough about that 0.08 to 1 gram per pound and what that can do for fat burn. And the other thing I think, Roman, that we're slowly, it's inch by inch on this one, is we're getting away from that number on the scale. And that
Exactly.
a lot of
Yes.
times with
Yes.
women, when you're like, some of the women I work with, they're athletes. I had a coach athletic coach, had very, very little body fat on her. She was a CrossFitter, um, collegiate athlete. She's 160 pounds. But when I showed her in body, she's 160 pounds of muscle and very little body fat. And
Nice.
for her, right, it's to sit down with some of the ladies and be like, oh, you're probably never going to lose a pound, but you're going to go down in size of clothes. That's not what their mentality is. Tell me this while we're on that is you've helped over 50 people transform their health. You got a memorable story or memorable transformation that you could share?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. There's quite a few without a doubt there. I will say one in particular that sticks out is honestly one of my clients. She was a really hardworking, lady, but her name was Pamela. And so about a couple years back now already, it's crazy how time flies and it just goes. But yeah, she started with me feeling, coming in, starting the program, feeling very, drained, lack of energy, lack of motivation, lack of drive, and very depressed. Wasn't happy with her current health, her current physique, her current body, and her current situation with that. And then she also really went over, her family history, how her family, parents died. They actually died of,
Yeah.
health illnesses and not taking care of their health properly. It led to a lot of, health related deaths, honestly. And so I felt that pain with her and I really, really understood that. But what was really great is when she finally took the step to change her life, her own life, her transformation and her health. It was a total 180. It was amazing. It was amazing. So seeing where she started feeling more depressed from the very get-go, more, weighed down, not in shape, not toned, not fit like she wanted to be and deserved to be, and then finally taking those steps to better her health, to better her life, just as a whole, taking that total 180, that total change, and seeing her body go from, not fit, not in shape, not toned, 200 pounds to literally, of course, numbers only matter so much, but 179 pounds then in 2 months. And just seeing her drop that weight, it was amazing.
What was
Literally, just
what was the
21
total weight
pounds
loss?
in 2 months.
How much?
21 pounds in those 2 months. It
21.
was super, super amazing. Like, words can't describe it. It was honestly life changing. And not just hearing the scale, drop, but more importantly, even seeing the physical transformation visually and the progress pics. And then even more, not just with that and seeing the definition, you could start seeing even a little bit of the obliques. Her ab definition was there in her core. And then, of course, you could see her face was even more, was thinner. It was definitely even that was more toned. And she just looked day and night different, total 180 on her physique entirely. She looked
If we,
happier, more energetic.
we would have people that hit those goals like that as they would hit them during the workout, we would have them carry the weight. So I had a lady drop 50 pounds. She had to carry a 50-pound weight one
That's
time.
awesome. I like that.
Like it said when she picked the weight up, she's like, "Oh my god!" And I went, she goes, "I have carried this the whole time." I'm like, "You've been carrying it for 10 or 15 years." And
Wow.
she was just so excited to go. She went around the ring like, hold this," and everybody was really into it. But when you see the visual, the mindset, you see that light. So many people come into our gym and they're dead. They were in that dark space and their heads are down. And when you see that shift, not only being in a positive environment, not only coming in and working out and deloading all those stresses of the day and life and spouses and kids and all the things, um, but then come back in and just start progressing themselves, you really see them refine themselves.
Oh yeah,
Crazy.
it's amazing. And then of course, hearing her, just her overall voice, the energy from her voice was a day and night, difference from where she started. I could tell she was happy. She had energy. She told me just amazing things in her own life that were totally different, like a total 180. She literally could lift, because she actually worked at the bowling alley and she could lift bowling balls like with no problem at all. Like any bowling ball, no matter
Yeah.
how light or heavy it may have been, small or big, she had them all. Like she could literally lift any bowling ball, anything. She lifted heavy boxes without any issue. And her strength, even some muscle gain, muscle increase, and then her overall energy, endurance, and obviously she just was more toned, and even more importantly, she was happier. She was happier. She was just healthier as a whole, and I could see it, I could feel it, and I could just see her face. It was glowing. So that was definitely a very memorable, amazing testimonial, without a doubt, without a doubt.
So when we speak to folks like her, and I have the same things, but how do you approach helping someone who feels overwhelmed by the idea of making significant life changes?
Yeah, no doubt. I will say, to start, for anyone that feels overwhelmed, whether they're just now starting their fitness journey, or maybe they did, and they just got off track and are trying to get right back into it, back into the swing of things. I found the best way for anyone that's overwhelmed, it's to start small. It's start small, start gradual, work your way into your fitness and to your health, because it's something you should do and you deserve it for yourself. But don't make too quick of a stride into it. Don't literally, like, if you're trying to dive into a pool, don't go head first right away. Sometimes just jump off the diving board regularly, just straight. Don't literally dive in right away, so to speak. So essentially, what I want to get at is, instead of thinking that you have to work out 5, 6 days a week, go 3 days a week. You don't even have to go 4 days a week, especially if you're just now getting started. Whatever fitness goal you might have, whether it's burning fat, losing weight, gaining muscle, whatever it might be in your fitness journey, just knowing you don't have to start from 0 to 10. You can literally go from 0 to 1 to 2, and then just build your way from there. Build a foundation first. Lay that foundation first, so that way, when that foundation's there, you can build upon that. It's just like when you build a house, you're not gonna build that house right away. It does come in phases. It takes time. Definitely takes time. Takes a lot of patience, energy, and dedication. But be patient. It's progress over perfection. Progress over perfection.
A lot of the quick fixes will train works for the folks that are listening. Roman's going to tell you, Jeff's going to tell you, both work in fitness and have that background. I've spent a lot of time in my gym relearning metabolisms. One of my nutrition coaches, she was really good, but the time that it would take someone that had been under eating less than 1,200 calories to get these quick um, weight losses, that can only occur a couple times. And your body's like, nope, we ain't doing this again. So trying to get their body retrained for just basic protein intake and fat burn and things along those lines, that's tough. So if you're listening, and we don't want to say trust the process, but you should, but just understand there is a process, and we didn't get here overnight. Sometimes when you're overweight, that was me. I didn't get there overnight, and it took a little longer than overnight to get beyond. Healthy weight loss for anyone who's listening is 1 pound to 2 pounds a week. So
Exactly.
yeah. So when you look at your commitment to yourself, the other thing I think I learned to echo what you said is you can make all these changes inside the gym. You can make all these things. You can come in, you can have perfect attendance. But if you don't make changes at home, if you don't put some of the effort in changing, my kid, I have a lot of people who will say, I cook for me and I cook for my spouse and kids. No. We all
Yep.
got to stay together. No. You're killing everybody but you now. No. And then it becomes this process to where I can slowly grab spouse's attention. Hey, this is, yeah, and it's not, um, it doesn't become a negative. So I think when to echo what you said, you're spot on, but for that listener, it's just understanding that I think we'll get to this toward the end, but finding someone like Roman that can guide you, and hundreds and thousands of fitness coaches out there is finding someone like Roman that can help guide you, can help mentor you, can help support you, and create that positive environment that you need. Yes, I think there's tons of value in that versus Googling and trying to figure it out on your own.
100%, 100%. Yeah, that accountability, that's one of those key things that a lot of people struggle with and lack. They lack, and they really need that, that fix of accountability, so that way they can be more consistent, be more dedicated, and honestly, just be more successful, short term and long term.
Your ultimate goal is to help people transform both mentally and physical. What does a successful transformation look like?
Yeah, no doubt. I will say this, the most successful transformation I would say imaginable is not just physical, but rather physical, mental, emotional, and honestly spiritual, if you will. So really all those pillars in one, to transform those from each thing. And, maybe certain people aren't struggling with all of those things, but whichever one that person or individual is struggling with at the moment, transforming that, but ideally transforming all of them, all in one. And here's the thing too, the physical is very important, but what some people seem to miss and not always understand or fully wrap their head around is it is all truly mindset. It is mainly all, if not all, mindset. Because if your mind is not dialed in and tuned into the right place that it needs to be, if your mindset's not set in the right place, you're not going to achieve your overall fitness goals. You're not going to transform your physical. You're not going to transform your, emotional. So you got to get your mindset, your mental state in the right state. And when you set your mindset right, then everything else can and will fall into place. But I really and truly believe, first and foremost, transforming the mindset from more pessimistic, more negative, more limited, way of thinking to a more limitless, positive, forward thinking, progressive mindset to keep making that progress with their health, with their fitness, and honestly transform their physiques, transform their health. And that way they can actually just become a better, much better, healthier version of themselves. And honestly, it's not always, getting to that goal weight. I mean, yes, the goal weight can be important to have a goal for, but it's more so how you look, it's how you feel, it's how the clothes are fitting, it's how the measurements are, looking whenever you measure each part of your body when you do that. And then, of course, it matters about the overall, balance of your fat to muscle ratio. So how much muscle do you have for that pound, for that weight? Because your body weight's not all muscle, it's not all fat. There's obviously some fat you need to live, but really understanding that too, that weight only matters so much. It's more so the overall, ratio of muscle to fat. And then again, just how you look, how you feel. Because if you don't feel good, if you don't look the way you want to, but your weight's lower, doesn't mean that you are where you want to be. And you probably aren't. So tuning that in, dialing that in right, being very, very mindful of that, of your overall energy, how you look, how you feel, your measurements. And then, of course, most importantly, keeping a good, solid mindset that isn't wanting to give up, that doesn't feel depressed, that has energy, that has the drive, and that honestly can see it through. And then, of course, getting that accountability so that person can thrive and not just survive.
Yeah, and I think the other part in there that I'll add is boundaries.
Yes.
It's installing good boundaries in. And this is a hardest one for folks. Is sometimes those boundaries have to go into your parents. I
Yes.
work with a lot of folks that their main cause of their self-destruction is through enabled overeating or enabled bad habits that came by way of a parent. The parent always, that's what you feel good. You eat. And like you said, growing up in Southern living, is you didn't go into anybody's house without eating. It's just part of it. So, I told them, I'm like, yeah, I'm mean about it. And you don't have to be whatever, but you just installing a healthy boundary until you can get to a place to where you can say no, or that you're okay. And been creating a deeper conversation, I think, and you'll find boundaries. You just need to install them temporary. You don't have to. I think that's super helpful as well when you're trying to shift this, when you're trying to shift your brain.
Oh yeah, that's 100% true. I'm glad you added that in, and you definitely threw that in, because really knowing what's good for you and prioritizing your health is key. It's definitely important, and that way you get the respect of other people that can see that. And honestly, it could, if they're struggling with their fitness and health, it could rub off on them. Just seeing that discipline from you could definitely positively influence other people and other surrounding individuals, for sure.
I'll tell you, I have a lot of folks that struggle to start. And there's a misconception. I wanted to ask you this: they struggle to start just because of, I think maybe there's a fear of the unknown, and sometimes they have that lifestyle that they're not willing to give up. But in your experience, what are the most common misconceptions people have with health and fitness?
Yeah, I would say the most common misconceptions that people that I would say people have with fitness is honestly not having the time, so to speak. Now, I'm
Yeah,
not going to say people aren't busy, people can't get busy, because yeah, we all get busy. I know, I'm sure we are, and a lot of other people are in their daily lives, but it's not so much finding the time, but rather making the time. So not really finding the right time, the proper time to start or to stay consistent, but rather making that time, even if it is, 3 days a week, 10 to 15 minutes of those 3 days, because we all at least have 10, 15 minutes to spare, surely a few times a week. So really prioritizing your health, knowing that your health is the most important, investment and feature that you're ever going to make for yourself and your overall life. So just dedicating even 10 minutes of some full body circuits, maybe from home even. That way you're not commuting to and from a gym. Just do that 3 days a week, full body circuits, calisthenic. Even you don't even have to have weights, bands, any of that if you don't have access to it or don't necessarily have a lot of money for it. But that actually leads me to my next thing is I don't have the money, I don't have the funds to invest in my health, which is, it's crazy to say that. I mean, I understand funds are tight for certain people more so than other individuals, but still your health is in fact, well, it's the most important investment you and anyone else could ever make. And if you don't invest in your personal health, your personal growth and development, you're not going to ever level up. You're not ever going to improve. And honestly, by the end of the day, if you're ending up in the hospital, which God forbid doesn't happen to whoever would be listening, but if that would happen to you or anyone else that you might know, that could actually even be more, detrimental and more serious and even more expensive, costly than you could have dealt with when you would have just invested in your health to begin with. So really making that investment a priority, because your health is, in fact, a priority. So that would be another misconception for sure, is I don't have the funds, I don't have the money to invest in myself. And even if you have to do, a payment plan or break it down into payments to a coach that you're working with or certain gym or club that you might be joining, maybe you're just joining a gym just to start with. But that's what it really comes down to, is finding that commitment, finding that just overall commitment to get started and understanding that this investment is important, because there's a lot of people that spend so much money on fast food, Starbucks. I mean, one Starbucks coffee a day, 7 days a week can add up to a lot of money, and that can add up to a personal training session, or sessions for the month, even from month to month. So there's so much that goes into that for sure. But really, I don't have time. I don't have the funds. Those are some of the common misconceptions, without a doubt, for sure.
I think if you, my friend Matt, he would always say if you he would have someone give him a time objection, he would ask for their calendar. Let me see your calendar. And he said he took two approaches. If they didn't have a calendar, he would sit there and show them all the calendar and how to time block and how to work on just their life so they're not floundering around. And then we had an entire presentation on discretionary and what $150 a month per day. At my gym at the last, I think we were around $4. We were less than $5 a day to be able to come group exercise unlimited during that time. So it's a lot of times we're trained. Your brains are trained to say, I don't have the money and I don't have the time, and it's a crutch. And the other thing we always said was either you're going to pay for it now or you'll really pay for it later.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you hit it. The other thing you're going to find, Roman, I'm not too so far how far apart we are in age, and it really doesn't matter. But I'm just trying to figure out your time in media versus my time in media when it comes to we don't HSAs and programs like that. You can't pay for your gym membership if you buy a prescription. There's no money in you being healthy. And if you really want to go against the grain, be healthy. If you
Exactly.
really want to go against the grain, be healthy because there's no incentive. They don't reimburse you for your gyms. They don't your insurance, HSAs, and all those things. So the whole goal is for you. You're right now the way it looks, and our conversation is we're going to eat food that's unhealthy for us. We're going to overeat, and then ultimately we're going to be a pill that's all subsidized by our government, our insurance. They're not going to pay for you to go and be healthy. So the one thing you could do if you really wanted to go against the grain is just go work out, be healthy.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I couldn't agree more. And that's the thing, it's all by design. They don't want us to be healthy. So being healthy, really taking that commitment, that effort to go all in and focus on you, making yourself and your health a priority, which it is. And that way you can honestly be the person that honestly society doesn't want you to be and the way that you should be though. So going against the will and nature of society, making this your own and making this your life because it is your life and
Yeah.
you live with your body. So you got to take care of it.
Yeah, there's only we only get one of those. A couple more things I was going to ask you, but when you're dealing um, with your personal challenges like depression and medication side effects, that stuff can be hard. It can be very daunting for everyone. Um, what kept you motivated during your lowest point?
Yeah, for sure. What kept me just going, consistent, I would say motivated and kept that fire inside of me. Because, growing up, I did deal with a lot of depression, disappointment, frustration, anger, and honestly was on a lot of different medications from ADHD to OCD to depression and anxiety. It just it went on and on. And I'll say what fixed maybe one thing or masked one thing I should really say and add led to another problem and another issue and another thing to deal with and another obstacle. I would say though, what kept me going is honestly remembering my why. So remembering why I wanted to better my health, why I wanted to get into fitness, why I wanted to live longer. So, and I found out I had a lot of different whys, honestly, but finding the main top priority, the main top why on why I wanted this, that actually kept me going, that kept me motivated, it kept me mentally and emotionally strong, which yet again is the whole foundation. It's the whole driving force and factor that can make or break your results and make or break your motivation and journey. Because if you're not getting this right and your emotional state then right, you're not going to want to be consistent. So really getting that why, focused in my head internally, really remembering that, writing that down even and saying that to myself every day, every morning, even before I got up sometimes out of bed, I would really go over, and do that mental exercise, honestly, why I wanted to do this. And so enough of that consistently every day, that kept me from falling off and going back to where I used to be, where I was fully dependent on medications. And then I found it was great with so much consistency and really remembering my why. And then honestly, remembering my past accomplishments and past challenges I overcame that allowed me to stay even more consistent. And then when I did that, I realized these medications I was on that honestly were not serving me and were at best masking my issues, my depression, my anxiety. At best, that's all it was doing, but it was leading to other issues. But what was neat is me sticking to this and keeping my why at the forefront of my mind. It not only kept me consistent with my health, my fitness, eating better, working out, being consistent in those things, but it also allowed me to finally break off medications, literally get off any and all medications that were doctor prescribed. And I realized I came to the conclusion, I came to the ultimate conclusion that fitness and nutrition, the right foods anyway, those are, vitamins. Those are vitamins. Those are medicine. Food is medicine. Fitness and working out is its own medicine too. So having the right medicine with no side effects, I found to be a much, much better option, a much better alternative. And yeah, that also just feeling that better, state of mind that I was in, feeling just a better, cleaner energy flowing through me kept me even more motivated as well when it was all said and done.
Yeah. Yeah, you're spot on there. I think as you move through that, you'll find different things that you really enjoy. You'll find getting into fitness, you're gonna find programs that you're like, yeah, I don't like this. You're gonna find programs you do. Some folks like group exercise, some folks like individual, like personal training. There's all sorts of things out there for you. But as we're wrapping up here, looking forward, are there any new areas of health or wellness you're particularly excited to explore or expand into?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I will say as of late, I've actually been getting more into the overall, of course, recovery I've always focused on to an extent, but I've been even more focused on the mobility, the flexibility, especially in recent months and the past year. I've really been focusing more in and honing more in on just overall flexibility, well-being beyond just the weightlifting, cardio, CrossFit, all those different types of training. I've focused more so on even the flexibility now with it and the overall recovery and the importance of all that because lifting weights, getting fit, losing weight, burning fat, gaining muscle, all great things, gaining that strength. But even more importantly, is to also have the flexibility, the mobility, so that way you can even move around anyway. So you got to be able to have that function, that physical functionality for your body. And that way you can actually achieve more goals, be a lot healthier, and honestly, just be a lot more consistent. And that way in your later years, you're not having to worry about struggling with back pain, all these other joint pains that plague a lot of people that are usually older, even younger sometimes.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the number of folks that struggle to get out of it. Um, and I have handful of people that will reach out and they're like, Jeff, I want to start something. I want to get going. I'm like, put on some shoes, walk your neighborhood 30 minutes, lay down on the floor on your back, get back up 3 times, and then face down and get back up 3 times. So I've had people call me and they're like, the hardest thing was getting off the floor. Now, the reason why I prescribed that was there were a lot of folks that would come into the gym, they would struggle to get out of the floor. So we would do um, burpees, right? Everybody hated burpees. So I'm like, listen, burpees is just falling down and getting back up on the road. You can do it as intense as you want to do them. We're going to leave here at next time. It takes you that much time to do one, but it's that, hey, how can our listeners and folks that are listening to this episode, how can they connect with you?
For sure, for sure. If you want to find out more about me, what I do, all the clients that I've helped with the testimonials, transformation picks as well. And if you have any fitness goals that you're needing help with and maybe struggling with, then you can go to my website at romanfisherofficial.com. And from there, you can fill out a quick application, and I'd love to get started with you. You can also find me at my social media at Roman Fisher Official at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn if you're also on LinkedIn.
And just for everyone that is um, curious, Fisher is Fischer.
There you
Uh,
go. Yeah, I got to throw that in there too, because that's probably something a lot of people, don't always seem to get right away, which is
Yeah.
to be expected because Fisher would sound like it, you would think it would be as it sounds, but it's a German last name, so you got the hidden C.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right, man. I tell you, folks, you're listening to this, you're going to create more questions. Make sure you reach out. It's what we normally do. Make sure you connect. If you want to ask Roman directly, you can. If you think it's a question that's great for the group, let us know. Me and him will connect back together and answer those. And then 6 months to a year, we'll have him back on so we can just revisit where he's at in his progress and listen to some of those new success stories. But I wanna close with this, and what Roman said is we can't echo that enough. Is sometimes when we're taking our health and fitness for granted, you deploy a little bit of selfishness. And what I've learned and what I've shared is you don't know how much the rest of the world cares about you. And we would love to have you around here and be with us and be able to um, just be present, not leave this earth any sooner than what you're supposed to, just by simply making low effort, taking care of yourself today. So if you're struggling, as we close, if you're struggling right now to get a routine started, that's the Roman, someone you can connect with immediately, get on a path, um, and get on a path to where you can find that routine that you're looking for. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you joining me. Appreciate you joining me, and I can't thank you enough.
No doubt, no doubt. I appreciate you having me on, and it was great. It was a great conversation, just really getting into health, fitness, and honestly, the importance of it, without a doubt.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Roman Fischer on the Second Chance podcast. That's good, buddy.
Cool,
Thank you.
cool. It was great. Yeah, I liked it.